So think about that when you're walking down the street and realize, oh, love is in the air. Love is in there. You'll walk into your house, oh, love is in the air. There's your air freshener. It's a thought that love is in the air. Use it. These are the practical things that we can take from places like this to use all the time. To know that you're constantly surrounded by what it is you hope you're surrounded by, instead of what you're afraid you might be surrounded by. But love, oh, love is in the air. You start having a thought that seems like it's not love, and you realize, oh, love is in the air. I can breathe. Oh, I'm breathing in love. To use all of this stuff to live life less afraid, or not afraid at all, and at peace, at joy, at wonder for what is real. And so that way you don't have to make anything up. I remember a guy, a club act once said, if you pay attention, you don't have to make stuff up. You know, there's so much wonderful stuff going on all the time. We're on the final week, our 13th week of the Universal Principle series. And it is the principle of primary purpose. My primary purpose. And again, it goes back to service. It goes to forgiveness. My primary purpose is to awaken. My primary purpose is to admit I am one with God. And what with me being one with God, then I'm one with you people. You know? And what with being one with God, you people are one with me. We're just all dressed differently. We put on different skin. And we put on, some of us put on different hair. Different clothes. We put on different personalities. But in my seeing correctly, am I seeing what is, what I'm going to lose, what's going to feel like a sacrifice, and which is anathema to me, is I'm going to lose my story about you. And I'm going to lose my story about me, and I'm going to lose my story about God. I'm going to lose my story about my children. I'm going to lose my story about my parents. I'm going to lose my story about my past. Now, it feels like it's a sacrifice, but have we tried it to find out whether or not it's a sacrifice? Whether or not we're actually losing something? Have we tried it sufficiently to discover what riches might exist in the absence of a story, but in the presence of God, in the presence of truth, in the presence of I am? Have we tried it sufficiently to find out? I believe the promises that tell me, because it's promises that say, if you apply this stuff practically all the time, not practically apply it all the time, but apply it practically all the time, you will be in the presence of peace all the time. You'll be in the presence of wisdom all the time. You'll be in the presence of love all the time. You will prosper. And remember, I want to be very clear on this in this prosperity thing, because some people don't care for the word prosperity because they only associate it with money, and because that's what it triggers. But prosperity is right thinking. Prosperity is assurance that your good is present now. And how could your good be present now except that you are in the presence of God now? So as long as we are in participating in a financial community, however, prosperity also means I'm going to have the finances I need right now. I'm always going to have it. It's not about, some people it seems like they have a lot saved up for a rainy day. But the problem is they're planning for a rainy day. And if you're planning for a rainy day, you are sure to get it. My ministers taught me plan for an opportunity. But it's not about how much you have in the bank. It's about how much consciousness do you have right now that all your needs are met right now. You may not know how you're going to pay next month's rent, but you know, today, my needs are met. I mean, David and I think we have less money now than we've ever had in the bank. Less. But I remember a few years ago when we had a pile of cash in the bank, and he was more afraid than ever. And we're not afraid today. We know our needs are met. We're happy with each other. We're happy in our home. And so obviously it's not the amount of zeros that make the difference, and how big the amount is before the zeros. That's obviously not the barometer for joy. That's not the barometer for forgiveness. It's not the barometer for love or peace or wisdom or power. So it must be in the thoughts. It must be in our thinking. It must be in the story we create. A good friend of David's of mine down in Tampa, his mother, all week long has been in the hospital waiting to make transition. Every day they keep saying, today, today, today. And as of yesterday, they were still waiting. But I talked to my friend and I said, don't give it a story. Keep asking God what this means. Because otherwise you're going to make up a story and eventually you're not going to like the story. You know, we start to make up a story we think we like, and suddenly we turn it into an attack. Well, suddenly that story goes from here, oh, God is present, and it's just all so wonderful. And somewhere in there, God bless you, something shifts, and we're under attack with our thoughts. If we're not asking Spirit or God what to think about this, how to see this, how to correctly perceive this, how to correctly experience this, how to see the presence of God in it, how to see the presence of life in what appears to be death, how to see the presence of abundance and wholeness and healing in the presence of what seems to be sickness and transition. And it's such a simple thing to do, to say, okay, God, you tell me what to think about this. You tell me, because I'm just going to make up something. And I always end up losing when I make it up. Always I end up unhappy when I just make it up without consulting Spirit. We were talking in the Dynamics for Living class earlier about how everything is already figured out. Whatever it is already figured out. And so, I don't have to spend my time today trying to figure it out. My time today that I used to spend figuring it out and didn't figure it out, I can spend instead identifying with God. Christ in me is awake now. Love is in the air. I could spend that time, and then all of a sudden, because I have spent my time renewing, recharging my God self, I get divine ideas all over the place of how to do, oh, I could do that, oh, I could go over there, and this could happen. And I didn't have to figure out any of it. Last week when we did our burning bowl, and we wrote down the forgiveness list and everything, and I said, I don't have to figure out how to forgive. How to forgive is already figured out. No, it's just about me declaring my oneness with God. And when I realize I am one with God, there's no more forgiving to do. There's no more forgiving to be done, because my grudges will be gone. My grievances will have vanished. See, it is already figured out. If you have a problem, take on a thought of God. Take on a thought of your God self. Now, it seems like that's just a distraction from figuring out how to fix your problem. But it isn't. It is the way to fix your problem. Take on a thought of God. Not how God's going to fix the problem, but how you and God are one. How the Christ in you is awake now. How the Christ presence, the very presence of God, lives in every cell of your being. How the Christ presence, how God presence lives in every room in your house. Even if you have one room, boy, then you really got a lot of God. There's no splitting it up, is there? So it's not, there is no lack, is the simple truth of this. How do I know this? Because I have abolished lack so many times with the thought of abundance. The world didn't shift. I didn't get more money. I just had a thought of abundance, and suddenly I wasn't thinking about lack. And if I'm not thinking about lack, I'm not experiencing lack. I don't have to be thinking about God to be experiencing God, however, because God is. God just simply is. Now I'm going to tell you, so I was at Disney one day this week. Kenneth and I went to Disneyland, the Magic Kingdom, and we're watching the electrical parade on Wednesday night. And it was cold, but I had my hats, I had my gloves. And I'm watching this thing, and I'm trying to make sense of it. Really trying to make some sense. This makes no sense to me. Because I know it's intended to have meaning. And I couldn't find any meaning in it. I had a pleasant time. But I know there are people at Disney that this is their thing. And I have friends. I have old friends who have been going and they don't have children. And they as a group of now 50-year-old children, go together for about 15 years now. Wow. They go every January. And it's wonderful. And I know they have meaning for that. It has meaning for them that has none for me. And so it was confusing because I went on this particular day because I wanted to see that electrical parade. Because I expected to have some wild sensation, some, ooh, something nurturing my child. And I enjoyed it. But I got this is the only story I got out of it, is I observed that a lot of people are crowded onto this street to watch this event. And every ride we rode, I couldn't find meaning. Don't get me wrong, I had a lovely day. I'm not complaining at all. I observed, though, that Disney doesn't have meaning, and the wars in the world don't have meaning for me either. Now, the next day, I was in a Greek village, Greek sponging village down there, Tarpon Springs. And I went into a store, it said men's clothes, so I often... meaning. There's my Disney. So I went into this store. And the man behind the counter, I like to be left alone in stores unless I have a question. But everything I looked at, he'd have to have a story about it. He said, well, that's made in California, and that's made in Oregon, that's made in America, and that's... And I finally said, I'll be honest with you, I don't care where it's made if I like it. And he said, yeah, but you want to support America. And I thought, he said, I may become unpopular here. At the moment, but I've been unpopular here before. I don't generally preach outside of this pulpit, but I said, sir, I'll be honest with you, there's only one God. So there's only one people. And he said, well, yeah, but you wouldn't want to get anything from China. And I said, if I liked it. And he said, but, we want the Americans to prosper. And I said, I want everybody to prosper. I said, I don't, yeah. And he said, yeah, but we want Americans a little bit more. And I said, I said, there's only one God. He said, yeah, but there's one God, but God loves America. And I said, I think I don't need to be in your store any longer. And I walked out.
Oh, wow.
Because what am I going to do, fight with somebody over their belief in that? But because what he was a wonderful teacher to show me how we compartmentalize our God and our good and our, my beliefs are best, and that just can't be. I heard a Unity minister do that. What do he want? Do that to me. I was in a conversation with him alone. He's no longer with us. He's since died. But first he was found not in good standing, which soothes my ego a little bit. But he was nutty like that. You know, I don't want to see another American woman hurt by a bomb blower. So I said, you do know we're doing things, America's doing things here. I don't know about that. I don't read the papers. And I thought, okay. But I thought, it's, people think, oh, unity, and you go to Unity Village and it's going to be so spiritual. And you meet a bunch of crazy ministers who bring their fundamentalist beliefs. And somehow they got through school. But you'll find that in ministries a lot of places, and you'll find that in people who you think shouldn't be that way. They shouldn't be racist, and they shouldn't be this, and they shouldn't be that, and you find out they are. And it's quite disillusioned. I remember when I probably in my late teens, early 20s, and I ran into a 6th grade teacher, and she made a racist comment to me as if I agreed. And she had been my favorite teacher ever. But it's my meaning I gave to that. You see, I wasn't following my primary purpose. See, I brought it around to the topic. I wasn't following my primary purpose. My primary purpose isn't to argue with the man. Although I do wish I had said to that man the other day, I came in here looking for clothes from Greece. I wish I had said that, since we're in a Greek village, but I didn't. But after I walked out, I couldn't go back. But the primary purpose, my primary purpose is to awaken. And if that's my primary purpose, that's your primary purpose, because we're all one. And awakening isn't about sacrifice. Awakening is about the realization of oneness. Awakening obviously isn't about how can I see how you and I are different, and you and I are different, and you and I are different, and they and us are different. And you know, and the people in my past who I've been mad at, oh, them. Well, but you know, I found out some people like them. Some people like those people from my past. And my past could be as recently as 5 minutes ago. You know, one of my favorite lines I've ever heard is, did you know the people I don't like have friends? And I was like, obviously I'm making stuff up. So within your primary purpose, would you be willing to ask God to tell you what to think about what's going on in front of you, especially if you have an opinion about it? If you have an opinion about what's going on in front of you, could you say, God, I have an opinion here. Obviously it's wrong. I want to know the truth. I'm willing to know the truth. Again, it may feel a little, because you may not hear a story, but you can trust that you have been told just because you asked. That's how good Spirit is. Spirit's got nothing to do but tell you the truth about what you're asking. Spirit's not going to tell you why, because there is no why. But tell me the truth about what to think about this. Tell me the truth of what to think about life and death. About living well. Tell me the truth about peace. Because Spirit's never, God, with whatever word you want to use with it, is never going to tell you anything but the truth. It's not going to make up a story to please your ego. It's not going to be nice, nor is it going to tell you you're stupid. Spirit is never going to tell you you're stupid for asking. You can ask 100 times today, and Spirit's never going to say, geez, when are you going to get it? Spirit is, it's just like your GPS. It's never going to, geez, when are you going to make that left turn? Jeez! Recalculating! It doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. It just says recalculating. You'll do it when you do it. But keep asking. And you will follow when you're willing to hear. But try what hasn't been tried before. Just try what hasn't been tried before. Become willing to admit it's not logical for peace to be a sacrifice. It's not logical for prosperity to be a sacrifice. It's not logical for true love to be a sacrifice. It's not logical that God would be mad at me. It's not logical to even think that I am separate from God. It's not logical to think that I am separate from the people that I'm around. It is logical to believe that love is in the air. It is logical to believe that only love lives here meaning everywhere, wherever I am, God is. It is logical to believe that I am whole and that health is available all the time and possible all the time. It is logical to believe that you could see everyone exactly as they are. It is possible and logical to believe that you can look in the mirror and always see the truth. It is logical. It is logical to believe that God is good and that I am good. That is logical. It is logical that love is. So go ahead and live in love.